You're listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 23 Personnel Podcast. This is your instant reaction to Texas Tech taking down TCU 35-28. I'm your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
Felt really good to get that possum off our back because we didn't talk about it last week, but TCU has dominated Tech in the last several meetings. They came into tonight winning 7 of the last 9, winning 5 of the last 6, and winning the last 4 in a row until tonight.
Mm-hmm. I can tell you those 2 last wins were the last time you played TCU on Thursday night, when you had the Fox on the field, and then when you had Jet Duffy ice it for you in Fort Worth a couple years later. Since then, though,
Really?
it's been a den of horrors. Excuse me. Talking about Duffy here. Gotta be careful. 35-28. Michael and I were talking about this before we hit record. Not an enjoyable game.
It was not. No.
Baron Morton was supremely efficient, completing almost 80% of his passes. Brooks got the ball 31 times and ran for almost 150 yards, nearly 5 yards per carry. There was just a lot of this game where you just felt like it was going to get away from you. And it was tense when it shouldn't have been. I've been hesitant to be too critical of the defense, Michael, but there were times in this game where you just felt like you couldn't do anything. 3rd and long, specifically. No matter what the yardage was, it was never too much for TCU to pick up. They had, what was that drive for them? They picked up 3 3rd and longs to go down and score. What was that?
I think that was their first drive of the third quarter. So, and also
10,
in that
there it is.
In that same third quarter, yes, they picked up those 3. They picked up an additional one. So in the third quarter, Tech's defense gave up 4 out of 4 third downs. And, if you have that quarterback, you feel a lot better. But that was definitely the one where, it seemed like this redshirt freshman was going to go on the road and be able to do just enough to win this game, which is something that Tech fans haven't been able to see happen with their freshmen on, kind of thrown into the spotlight. So it was good to see some mistakes finally started showing up that you expected to see a young kid make at the quarterback position, especially on that last drive. Because, like you said, Spencer, this was not an enjoyable game to watch. So on that last drive, I was fully expecting, especially with the chunk plays they were getting, they were getting so many chunk plays, and
They were moving
I don't
the ball.
know, I don't know where to look that up, but I don't know how many plays they got over 10 yards.
I'm looking at it right now.
I know on one drive. Well, how many? I know on one drive, their first scoring drive, I think it was 3 just on that drive alone.
2.
It was 2.
Well, okay. The chunk plays, according to Stat Broadcast, are pass plays of 15 or more yards, run plays of 10 or more yards.
Got it. I think there was a pass play of 11 on that first drive.
Yeah. On that first drive, they had pass plays of 17 and 19 yards, including the touchdown. On that drive we talked about, they picked up 83 of their 93 yards on 3 plays. Within 7 plays of game action, plays 133, 137, 140, they picked up 29, 35, and 19 yards, which were 3rd and 8, 3rd and 14, 3rd and 14.
So you see that all night. You see them get the ball back with, what was it, 2 minutes and change, 2:18 with the timeout left. And sure enough, I mean, they were moving the chains, clock stopping, they're getting out of bounds. It really looked good. And then finally that mistake showed up that big interception, and Rabbit got his third of the night. I'm going to count. I'm going to count the other
The one that was called
all
back
three,
on a
counting
penalty.
all three. Yes, seems like we like to get
He
interceptions
almost had a
called back on
fourth.
us.
Yeah, he almost
He
had a fourth.
did.
Which would have been wild to get 4 interceptions in a game. Luckily, maybe your defense
Luckily, maybe.
or the TCU offense as fast as they have been all year on their second to last drive where they scored that touchdown were really methodical and slow. And maybe that had something to do with you, right? Like you forced them to drive 75 yards, but 16 plays, 5 minutes and 39 seconds to do it. Leaving something like 3 minutes. No, it was just under 5 minutes on the clock left. And then big brain offensive coordinator couldn't figure out how to run the ball. I at times, Michael, it felt like he got in his head and enjoyed success and like, now I'm gonna be cute. And it blew up in his face every single time. You
talking
ran
the
like
direct snap?
Yeah, you ran a direct snap on 4th and short, which like maybe if it worked out, we would have been like, wow, that was actually pretty smart to reduce the number of touches there, just get the ball right to Brooks. I know we've said that earlier when we were talking about when Jake
sorry,
Strong
Strong.
couldn't.
Yeah, when Strong's
couldn't,
out there, at one point we're like, let's just snap it directly to Brooks. But then you realize that you didn't have the ability to snap the ball very well last week. And on that play, if I remember right, I think Brooks, it was kind of a high snap. Maybe
I
not.
don't
Maybe
remember.
I'm not remembering that correctly, but I thought, well, that
It
didn't
went on
help
the
things
ground.
either. Ah.
Yeah. I totally forgot where I was going with that.
Oh, you're just talking about kind of getting a little bit too creative.
Oh yeah, and then the double reverse flea flicker that we picked up
Ugh.
5 yards, like in spite of everything else going
In
wrong.
spite of everything, yeah.
The linebacker blew through the line, was not fooled at all. Very nearly just sacked Morton back 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage. I like these guys, Michael, the wide receivers. But they got absolutely manhandled tonight. And it was embarrassing. Like Eakin, how you want to pronounce his name, Price, McCray, like they got picked up and just moved. I got nothing else. Like they didn't ever seem to impose anything. They didn't force many, if any, missed tackles. They didn't really block anybody of note. Outside of that third that swing pass that actually worked, the one time it ever works, we throw it to the sideline. And Xavier White was able to break off 30 something yards. The wide receivers as a whole, not just tonight, been an underwhelming group.
Yeah.
Which, again, big brain offensive coordinator, like it would seem that you would be like, okay, let's just run the ball more. Like we can't count on our receivers to make plays. They can't block. They can't get open. They can't catch. They can't avoid contact. They can't stay on their feet. But no, Michael, inside the red zone, let's go 5 wide and throw it 3 times.
Well,
I don't
mean,
know.
red zone scores 3 of 3.
Well, that drive that you went
scores.
5 wide, yeah, it ended up being a field goal.
Yeah.
The first of 2 field goals. That second one, that 55-yarder, holy crap, Garcia just exploded into that ball.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Thing of beauty.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just I guess there's plenty of things to criticize on a 4-5 team that may have just won its last game of the year. You saw a healthy Morton for the most part. Like there were probably a couple of throws where like maybe his arm's not, his shoulder not 100%. But then you saw like he was placing balls where only your receiver could catch them. He was throwing guys open. Um,
Yeah, the
beautiful deep
touchdown to
balls.
was the touchdown to
McRae.
McRae? Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Um,
And that is something McGuire mentioned, and that we talked about that Tuesday. He was saying look for the deep ball. He's ready to have it back, and that's a big part of the offense they were looking to try to exploit again this week, and they were able to an extent, and definitely a lot more than they have before. I mean, not to say Strong didn't rear back and throw it here and there, but a little bit more success this week, a little bit less. I wasn't reaching for my nitro pills whenever Barron cocked back and threw it in the air this week.
no, he finished the night completing 78% of his passes, 28 of 36 for 282 yards. It felt like there was probably a little bit more than that, but 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, rating of 162. Um, 10 different receivers caught passes, 6 of them only caught one. So 8 receptions to Aiken, which feels like a lot. 5 to White, 5 to Price, 4 to Brooks, who ended up with negative yardage, um, passing yardage for Brooks. On the ground, Brooks carried the ball 31 times for 146 yards with only a long of 20 on 3rd and 21. So I love how that works in the reverse for Texas Tech, where if we need third and whatever, we get yardage to go -1, but defensively it's yardage to go +1.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Valdez carried the ball 3 times, was removed, and never came back in the game after he kicked the TCU player. So you only have 2 running backs that you want to hand the ball off to. Um, I don't know where anybody else is, but as soon as Valdez got himself into trouble, it was Brooks or Morton. Morton carried 5 times for a net of -4. Um, on the whole, I mean, if you look at Brooks, 4.7 yards per carry, solid. He eclipsed 1,000 yards for the season tonight, with 3 games to go. So that's pretty. It's great. I don't think we've had one since we haven't had 1,000 yard rushers since what was it 2015 with DeAndre Washington
Yeah, he might have been 16.
or
I, I
16.
I feel like he was still around
So
with
seven
Mahomes.
years.
Uh, yeah, it's still been a while since the last
Um,
time, almost since the last time Tech beat TCU.
so the offense, I don't know, man. It's just your offensive coordinator can't get out of his own way at times. Your offensive line, it is what it is.
Right.
You've shuffled guys around, injuries or performance, but they're there some plays, they're not, and others. Um,
Well, and once again, not to pick on him too much, but this is another game with 3 false starts on 3rd down.
yeah,
And they were all already long. They were 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11. That's not doing you any favors at home. So I mean, yeah, you're going to see that a little bit. Not to pick on it too much, but
yeah. Well, offensively, in the fourth quarter, you ran 11 total plays. You were 4-4 on pass plays for 98 yards. You ran the ball 7 times for 20 yards. Um, but you were 0 of 2 on third downs. You did finish almost at 50% on the night, 7 of 18. But your offense, like again, you needed to keep the offense on the field, convert some third and fourth downs, and ice the game away. You just weren't able to be on the field. Third quarter was actually worse. You ran 20 plays, but only picked up 74 yards. So 3.7 yards per play in the third quarter, 10.7 in the fourth. Um, 3 of 5 on third downs, but you had 5 penalties in the third quarter.
yeah, 3rd quarter was just a cluster. I mean, I'm surprised they were able to turn it around the way they did into the fourth. That's something that we almost needed another halftime after third quarter to try to get our crap together, but somehow they were able to do it.
Yeah, you came out with the ball and to start the third quarter, you went 3 and out. TCU responds with a touchdown. They would score again to get it to 21-20 before Taj Brooks ran in his only touchdown of the evening. With 6 seconds left in the third quarter, and then the 2-point conversion to go up 28-21. And then McCray in the fourth quarter, just a few minutes later, the 44-yard reception to get up 35-21. Defensively,
to,
Michael?
Yeah. What do you got?
Well, what were you going to say?
I was just going to run over to the YouTube comments quickly.
Okay.
So we got some guys on here, and then we can get back to the defense. But Nathan, right when we fired up, said stress-free football Saturday coming off a Thursday dub. I'll take it. Absolutely. I really enjoyed just a stress-free football last Saturday, and I get 2 of them in a row now.
Mm-hmm.
It's bliss. It's great. Ryan's saying that we want Georgia, and then he clarifies state. We want Georgia State. Fair enough. And then Chase is asking, how are we feeling about analytics? Do you have any? I mean, Tech did go 2 for 3 tonight on fourth down.
I don't think that's accurate. I think they went 2 of 4.
Oh, really?
Because remember, like, so they took the timeout to review the spot, and they said, "Oh, you are a yard short," and then got stuffed on that play. That's one miss, and then that direct snap to Brooks was a fourth down, was it not?
Yeah, it had to have been, but they're only showing on the.
So I think you were 2 of 4.
Dang. Well, they're showing on the drive summary that only one drive ended in a turnover on downs. But either way, I mean, that seemed. No, I was not a fan of going for it with the lead on your, what was it, from your own 35? That seems kind of desperate.
34, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it didn't cost Tech the game in this case, but it always makes me second guess it. I'm just not a huge fan of that exact instance, which seems to come up quite often, and a lot of times it does work. You know, Tech's fourth down percentage is 60 or 70%, and so if this 2 of 3 is still accurate, then that's about their average. Right. We're seeing the 2 of 3, but we're trying to remember. We kind of think there was a fourth down. We kind of feel like there were 2 that Tech didn't convert, but can't remember exactly. Cross Timbers mentioning stats not very good. Well, he was playing a different position tonight. That could be part of it. And goes on to say kickers are allowed to celebrate when you make anything over 50. Absolutely. I don't think we said anything opposed to that. I mean, yeah, that's fantastic. 55, especially when you boot it like that. And he mentions that the touchdown to McCray was underthrown, but I enjoyed the outcome. Yes. Looking back at that replay, the defender, if he moved his arms a microsecond faster or slower, he probably would have broken it up. And then Chase has got me kind of pumped here. So the only thing Tech can win this year is the Texas State title. Beat Baylor, Houston, and TCU. Now you just need Arch Manning to start for UT to make that happen. So Texas title is on the line. I hadn't even considered that, Chase. We got a shot. Run through the entire state, right into the bowl game. That would be good. Still got to beat, obviously, Texas, he mentioned, but at least one of the Florida or Kansas games remaining. One of those 2 opponents, I should say. All right, Spencer. Sorry, man. I think we're caught up on YouTube comments. I just
I'm
know
I'm still
some of y'all
I'm
are
still
watching. I want to address them while we're talking.
I'm still trying to find that play.
You're still lost on the.
Guys,
There was a fourth down.
okay, was that direct snap to Taj Brooks? Was that on third or fourth down? Which quarter was it in? And was it negated by a penalty? Because that also could be throwing me off.
That might have been it. Hang on a second.
Because if we like picked up yardage or whatever, but it got pushed back by a penalty or something.
I think there was a penalty. So could it have been the illegal touch pass?
No, because that was
No,
on
no.
TCU.
There was a face mask on a kickoff. Yeah, the unsportsmanlike on Valdez. Man, I don't know. I don't know where you're thinking that one came from, but it does seem like they came back out and ran it again. Or maybe that was just the one that they missed.
I'm not finding it. Probably wasn't a fourth down. Anyway, okay, so officially then you're 2 of 3 on fourth downs. I'm not going to find anything else. Anything else. Defensively, Hoover attempted 52 passes, completed 32, 353 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Rabbit could have had 2 more interceptions on the night, really. You gave up 87 rushing yards on 3.3 yards per carry, 26 attempts. Bailey finally got into the end zone. Well, he doubled his season touchdown numbers in one game. He had 2 on the year. Now he's got 4. Sanders, the backup running back that we talked about in the preview, had 1 carry for a touchdown. Defensively, I think it was good that we saw Rodriguez back, and he kind of slowly made his presence known throughout the game. It built as the game was going. Like I saw him out there, and I said, "Wait, who's number 10 on defense?" And I legitimately had to look up the roster. I was like, "Holy crap, Rodriguez is back!" And then from basically that point on, it was probably second quarter. He just kept finding himself more and more involved in the plays. So it was great to see him back out there finally, and then be able to contribute the way he did. He had 6 tackles on the night. You were led in tackles. This is terrible, by 2 different defensive backs, then a defensive lineman, and then 2 linebackers.
But
and
one
then
of
2
those
more defensive
DBs
backs.
absolutely decleated a guy. Baskerville was just with that.
Yeah, he did. He was
beautiful tackle.
Defensive backs, it felt like, weren't the problem. Like, as much as I was just loving on Rodriguez, it was like the linebackers and pass coverage that were just atrocious. And maybe that was scheme related, that Bryles saw something. He was trying to get he was trying to force the ball to the receivers or whoever's going to be covered by a linebacker, because that's almost always going to be in your advantage. Our linebackers, at least tonight, were not very good in coverage. I don't know, man. It's just a 4-5 team. You won a game, so it's great. I'm not poo-pooing that, but just goes back to, like, this was just not an enjoyable game to watch. You won, but it was like, I don't even know, man.
No, I know. We've kind of reached that point where it's not as easy to enjoy these wins, especially against a team that you were favored. So Tech actually won a game they were favored to win, which is great.
Is that the first one this season?
No, I don't think so. I bet they were favored to beat Houston, and of course Tarleton. But
sorry, the favored stat thing is going the other way.
That's only in losses.
Yeah, you've lost every game except for Oregon, where you were favored.
Yes. Or every loss you have except Oregon, you were favored.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
But yeah, it is just kind of it's tough to enjoy these wins when also Tech saw them, TCU come back, lose a 2-score lead in the third quarter and have to go for two just to get the lead back and or keep it more than 6 points away. So yeah, it was just not. Yeah, it's hard to enjoy it too much, but I'm really glad that Tech won. Obviously, I want Tech to keep winning. I want them to make it to a bowl game. I'd love for them to finish 7-5. That would be incredible. It's just all comes down to how it's done. If Tech went into halftime up 20-7 and came out and just kept rolling and won 35-14, I think you and I would feel a lot differently. But the fact that they actually lost the lead and were so atrocious on both sides of the ball coming out of the half, when technically that's when your team should be doing better, that's just another log to throw in the fire of, oh gosh, this my heart. I'm not sure how much more I can take. And speaking of my heart, Luke's in the comments and he mentioned that he's all for analytics. It doesn't always work out, but it's using math over emotion to create an advantage. And I I do agree with that. The fact that it makes me uncomfortable on my couch at home, that's okay. But this is the world we live in. And coming into this game, Tech was 67% on fourth down success rate. They were exactly 66.66 repeating, of course, percentage on fourth down success rate today. So the train just moves on. And that's incredible. It does appear to be working. If that number was 47 or 42, I think we'd all be a little bit freaked out. But when it's, you know, Tech may not get every third, fourth down, okay. It's going to stink when they score on a short field, though. But we'll just we'll just keep going. We know that's how it's going to play out.
Yeah. Luke also said he just bought tickets to the Tech Kansas game and that we're making him regret his decision.
Hey, no, come on.
If you win the Kansas
It's going to be
game,
beautiful in Lawrence that day.
if you win the Kansas game, it's going to be an upset. So being in the house for that would be good.
That's true. That is true. Tech will be. That's just crazy. Tech's going to be a dog in Lawrence. I wonder when the last time that's happened. Who knows? It's probably happened the last couple of years, but that might be something interesting to look at going into the Kansas week. Last time they were an underdog in Lawrence.
So you played them, it was 08-9, right? 8-9? Or is it 7-8? It wasn't 7. It was 8-9. And then they went on
when they were really good.
Yeah, I was
I
trying
got
to think about like when they were last good before this.
Yeah, that's about right.
Played them at 8-9.
According to Winsipedia, Texas Tech is 22-2 against Kansas.
Golly.
And one of those two came in 2019. I think we all remember that. So even in Kansas's good years, Tech won. The last time prior to 2019 that Tech lost to Kansas was in 2001. And so of the two losses, one was in Kansas or in Lawrence and the other was in Lubbock. But I think if anything, I think that's just going to be a fun game to watch. I'm hoping that Tech's line is a little healthier and Kansas just kind of has a fun offense it's tough to stop, but fun to watch, and they have some good playmakers. And I think wherever you bought your seat, you'll be able to move up, get a little closer. It'll be good, especially if there's any sign of weather. Everyone will just leave and not come back. That's apparently what happened right before they upset OU last week.
Oh no, missed a good ending. Chase comes back and says, yes, math over emotion. I just want to see the math. If it's a 34% chance of getting it and 37% chance of getting a stop on the other end, I would rather punt. I don't feel like they are truly following it. I don't think that's the numbers you get. I think it's estimated points added. I think so. Like a punt, nets so many points added or whatever. Going for it, you know, I think it's just weighted differently than like the percentage of potentially converting versus not converting. Um, but I don't know. I also haven't seen the numbers or what it looks like. I did find that that chart or that table that broke it down last season, but I think it was more geared towards the NFL game. We know that's not going to translate super well to college, but essentially it was like 4th and 1, no matter where you were on the field, you're going to go for it. And the further away you were from your own end zone, so from scoring, the fewer yards to go. Like the closer you were to your end zone, the longer the 4th down attempt could be. So if you're like on your 10, it was 4th and 7, you had a higher percentage of going for it there than if it was at your 50 and 4th and 7, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But basically, if I remember correctly, I have to go back and look through our notes. Basically, anything inside of your 45 and it was 4th and medium, you were going to go for it. Because one, that's going to be too long of a punt. Sorry, too long of a field goal, too short of a punt. To really net you many yards if you were to attempt something there. Anyways, in college kickers, especially the field goal kickers, aren't super reliable. Michael,
Only from 55 yards.
55 and in, apparently. Maybe longer. That kick looked like it would have been good for a little bit longer. You got anything else on tonight's game?
Not a whole lot. We didn't touch on it too much. I would have liked to see a little bit more aggressiveness on that very last drive of the first half. I know that Tech only had one timeout left, and it was, they got the ball at their own 31. There were 31 seconds left, but 20-7. I mean, I think I can speak for you in saying neither of us were comfortable with going into the half with a 20-7 lead, despite knowing that Tech was getting the ball back. That's just kind of how this team has conditioned us over this season. So I would have liked to see a little bit more aggressive play calling there than just handing it off to Brooks and running out the clock. But
yeah, you forced a field goal attempt, a long field goal attempt, and their kicker missed it. So you take the ball over. No, sorry, it was a punt.
Yeah,
you took the ball over.
I think the
punt.
field goal attempt was a few drives before that.
It was more towards the middle of the second quarter. But you get the ball on your 30 with 30 seconds to go. So you need 50 yards essentially to get you into field goal range, but you had a timeout and 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And you ran like a delayed handoff draw type play into the middle, got absolutely nothing, and then went to the locker room.
Yeah, got negative yards on it.
I get not, you lost a yard. I get not wanting to turn the ball over there and give it, any more momentum back to TCU. Like I know you're probably playing numbers there too. But again, I'm with you, Michael. I would have liked to see an attempt at more yardage than we're going to run it into the middle of the defense here and see what we get.
Yeah. And then the one last thing that we've talked about so much this year, I know Steve Linton was out this game, but 0 sacks on the day.
And not even close.
Not even close. I think I remember him seeing get rushed out of the pocket quite a few times, but then that was really all that ever came out of that.
You got credit for 4 quarterback hurries.
If there's any quarterback you want to get in the face of, it's the redshirt freshman on the road. Let them know you're there, and they weren't able to do that. So that was disappointing, as it has been most of the season.
Yeah, and he was having an off night, so like even this is going to go in the face of what you're just saying. But if you were to play coverage, like he was going to throw it to, and he did 4 times. You dropped one, you had one negated, and then you caught 2. But to your credit, Michael, you did get in his face 4 times. You had 4 quarterback hurries. You only allowed 2 quarterback hurries on Morton. You only were credited with 1 pass breakup where they had 2. They had 8 tackles for loss. You only had 1. So they were quite a bit more disruptive than you were, even though you had the 4 quarterback hurries and 2 interceptions. So I don't know. I've seen the defense kind of get cut up a little bit early and then settle in and then shut down things in the second half. That's just not what happened tonight. It was more the reverse. You started out pretty good, and then it started to bleed on you, and it was on the verge of breaking there at the end before you finally had Dimerson, or when you had Dimerson catch that second interception. I still think I would have liked our chances had you gone to overtime, right? In a duel basically of Morton versus Hoover, or Brooks versus Bailey. But I don't know if I like the players better. I don't know if I would have liked Kitley versus Bryles better.
I definitely would not have signed up for an overtime in this game, because then that would have meant TCU would have gone into it with all the momentum. They would have put together a 2-minute drive and executed it perfectly, and then they're going into overtime after being down 20-7 at half. You're like, no.
Yeah. All right. That'll do it for us in 23 Personnel Podcast. Wrapping up the Texas Tech victory 35-28 over TCU. We'll be back on Tuesday for the preview. And, well, we got 2 games to preview next week, Michael. We got basketball on Wednesday and football on Saturday. So, but that'll do it for us. Like I said, Texas Tech a winner 35-28 for Michael. I'm Spencer. We'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at Punt Suck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.